Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Piper Report. So I had to take a break from my negative income tax video and go over some breaking news. Here is the title of the article. Terrible Massacre. Israel kills 52, injures 2,410 Gaza protesters as U.S. Embassy opens in Jerusalem. Okay, if you are curious on why there is so much hostility towards the state of Israel, this should give you all you need. All you have to do is read the title of this article. You don't even have to read the article itself, just the title. This is wrong. Whether you are for Israel or against Israel, you should be able to notice that this is a violation of human rights. 52 people dead, 2,410 injured. Now, I'm no fan of Iran. I'm no fan of Hezbollah. I'm no fan of Hamas. I'm no fan of a lot of these recalcitrant terrorist groups. However, when Israel does things like these, it makes me feel sympathy towards them. I'm not really a fan of Israel. That doesn't mean I'm alright. That doesn't mean I'm anti-Jewish. But I think Israel has way too much power over the U.S. Its lobbying organization, AIPAC, has a vast amount of power. And not only that, there was, I believe it was 3 years ago, there was a reporter who was trying to determine which members of Congress are dual citizens with Israel. And whenever they called different congressmen their offices, they were not allowed to have that information. Why? Shouldn't we know if we have members of Congress that are U.S. citizens but also Israel citizens? And the reason, people might ask me, why does that matter? Why does it matter where their dual citizenship lies? Well, because if you have people in high power positions, people with responsibility to draft legislation, to basically create policy, it's probably good to know where their allegiances lie. And if they have a dual citizenship, if they are part, or if they are members of the Israeli government, or they are members of Israel in general, it's not a far leap to estimate that their decisions may be for the betterment of Israel and not necessarily the U.S. Especially now in this modern world where nationalism is becoming more robust, we should want to do America first. Well, if we have people in power that are dual citizenship, how do we know that they are doing America first? Maybe they are doing Israel first. So that's kind of my problem with Israel, is that they have way too much power over the U.S., a lot more than they should. And the U.S. is involved in a lot of Middle Eastern affairs strictly due to doing proxy wars with Israel. I wouldn't necessarily say on the behest of Israel, but definitely within conjunction of Israel. And what I mean by that is, for the sake of argument, I'm not saying this should happen, but let's say the state of Israel was never created. It is highly unlikely that the U.S. would be involved in as many Middle Eastern affairs as we currently are in. I just don't see that as possible. A big reason we are involved in so many Middle Eastern affairs is strictly due to our closest ally, Israel. At Israel's request, possibly, and it's just, I think enough is enough. Maybe, I'm just throwing this out here, maybe we should take care of America first, then after we tend to the needs of all of our citizens, after we balance our budget, after we get ourselves back on track, maybe then we can adopt this altruistic attitude, and we can go help Israel, and we can go help our allies. I should clarify that my lecture here is not strictly delegated toward Israel. I believe we should do America first, and that includes take care of ourselves first before all of our allies, not just Israel, but also the UK, France, Britain, all of these countries that we have close ties with. It is good to help out our allies, but not at the expense of helping out our citizens. Here we go. Protests against the U.S. Embassy moved to Jerusalem and ahead of the 70th anniversary of Nakba at the Israel-Gaza border on May 14th. 52 Palestinian protesters have been killed by Israeli fire during demonstrations on the day of the U.S. Embassy's inauguration in Jerusalem, the Palestinian Health Ministry said Monday. More than 2,400 protesters have been injured in Gaza on what has been the most violent day of the 6-week-long Great March of Return. Those wounded on Monday include 203 children and 78 women. 203 children and 78 women. There is a lot of hostility against Islamic extremists, such as ISIS and Al-Qaeda, and a big reason that there is due to them basically killing whomever they want. It doesn't matter if they're children, if they're senior citizens, if they're women, they kill just to kill. And that is exactly what Israel did here. It wasn't like their anger was just put forth on these radical extreme men. No, they attacked children, they attacked women. In my mind, that makes them no better than what they accuse some of these Muslim extremists of being. You cannot have it both ways. You cannot say that you are a beacon of altruism, that at the same time do what you denounce your enemies of doing. It doesn't look good. It is hypocritical. And again, this is why there is so much hostility towards Israel, because of extreme actions like these. The Palestinian government denounced Monday's violence as a terrible massacre perpetrated by the forces of the Israeli occupation and called for an immediate international intervention to prevent further deaths. A day of national mourning has been declared by the government in Ramallah. Around 35,000 protesters gathered at the border fence and thousands more within a half mile of the vicinity. Clashes have also reportedly broken out between protesters and the Israeli Defense Forces in Bethlehem. The first of Monday's deaths was 21-year-old Anas Hamda Kudi, killed east of Khan Yunis, a spokesperson for the ministry said. A 29-year-old man, Mazab Yusuf Ibrahim Abu Lali, geez, those are some pretty intense names, was later killed east of Jabalah. Some of the dead have yet to be identified. 6 children under the age of 18, including 1 girl, are among the fatalities. Amnesty International has called the Israeli violence in Gaza an abhorrent violation of international law and human rights. Here is a tweet. We are witnessing an abhorrent violation of international law and human rights in Gaza. 38 confirmed dead, including 6 children, with close to 2,000 people injured. Many are reporting injuries to the head and chest. Over 500 injured with live ammunition. This must end immediately. So, as it says right here. I was going to say, as it appears, members of the Israel government shot live bullets directly into the protesting crowd. And as we see right here, it appears that way. Around half of all injuries were caused by live bullets, while hundreds more were targeted with tear gas, according to the ministry. The Palestinian Health Ministry claims that Israeli forces are directly targeting emergency services and journalists and are calling on citizens to urgently donate blood to help save the lives of those wounded. 6 journalists have reportedly been injured while covering Monday's demonstrations, according to the Journalist Supporting Committee. Meanwhile, the IDF, Israeli Air Force, plans targeted Hamas posts near Jabalah after its soldiers came under fire in the area. The latest deaths bring the number killed since the Great March of Return protests began 6 weeks ago to 97. Dr. Absuida, professor of political sciences, told RT that the relocation of the U.S. Embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem is a very sad day for the Palestinians, reminding them of their first Nakba some 7 years ago. It seems to me that the Palestinians have decided that the U.S. is no longer an honest broker in the Mideast peace process between the Palestinians and Israelis, he said, adding that it will likely lead to further Palestinian rage and resistance. I think that is key. Years ago, there was always this sense of hope that between Israel and Palestine, there would be some sort of agreement, ideally to achieve a 2-state solution. And if you are curious about the 2-state solution, I will post a link to a video I did regarding that very subject in the description. I kind of go over depth of what it means and what it could do for the future. But anyways, that hope of achieving a 2-state solution is now completely dead. There is no coming back from this. There will be no proposals for peace anymore. There will always be turmoil now in the Middle East because of this type of action. And I'm not just saying it's just Israel. The Palestinians do some pretty abhorrent things as well. But I don't know. I tend to follow the news quite accurately and quite diligently. And I don't think I've ever read anything that the Palestinians did that compares to what I'm reading here. And mind you, Hamas and Hezbollah are essentially terrorist groups, or they are known to be terrorist groups by many people. Israel is known to be a beacon of good faith, a democracy, and yet they are doing things that are on par with some of the worst terrorist extremist groups in the world. So it kind of makes you wonder, why are we supporting Israel so much when these type of things happen, but we are denigrating other countries who do things that are similar to this? And again, I know I have some subscribers who are big fans of Israel and who are Jewish, and this has nothing to do against the Jewish faith. However, this does have something to do with Israel having a big hold over the U.S., having a big hold in foreign affairs of the U.S., and I think it's time we stop, because actions like these are only going to facilitate more help from the U.S. The U.S. is only going to need to help Israel more now, since we will see even more hatred onto the Israel government. This type of action will make the U.S. stay in Middle Eastern affairs for many more years to come. And it is a very, very sad reality when we see a democracy, when we see a country that's supposed to stand for freedom, do such a horrendous act. So you can let me know what you think in the description, because I know, like I said, I do have some subscribers who are pro-Israel and things of that nature, so maybe you can explain to me, maybe you can help justify this action to me, and I will definitely listen to it. But on the top of my head, I cannot find any resolution that would justify such a horrendous act. I really can't. So hopefully you can tell me in the description what I am missing here. Hopefully you can tell me something that justifies this act, and I will gladly listen, because I am really curious, because I don't see any justification whatsoever. And I'm done.